the bigger question is why the Americans are putting up with this defense pact. Why don't they fear that this could possibly be against the apartheid Israel? I think reason being is Americans are also, they mistakenly think that this pact is against Iran. I think partially they are right, but in the long run, it would not be against Iran. In the long run, it would be against Israel. So Pakistan and Turkey are going to be reluctant to operationalize any possible this particular clause of the defense pact to retaliate against Iran. But when it comes to its proxies, probability is there that Pakistan and Turkey would be there to carry out attack. But the standard practice has been that the Pakistani pilots would be there, Pakistan's machinery would be there behind the scene, and the Saudis would be claiming they have done it. I think this kind of a scenario would continue to build up in the Red Sea and across the region. But I don't think at this particular point of time, when Pakistan along with Turkey, they are trying to sort out issues in the Middle East through diplomatic means, they are not in a position to retaliate against Iran and also in extension to its proxies. I think let's look at the individualistic interests of all these countries. Saudis badly need some kind of a security umbrella because now it has gone, as everybody knows that the Americans have failed. They are leaving this region for all practical reasons. They've been expelled by Iran. Most of the military bases have been destroyed or damaged to a point where they had to actually shift their aerial military infrastructure to apartheid Israel. So in that broader context, they have now realized that their military bases, Americans' military bases, have been a bigger part of the problem. But these states, Gulf states, essentially they are looking for a new master. The previous master, the Americans, has failed to protect them. And then the so-called outgoing hegemon of the Middle East, the Americans, they are leaving behind their three allies to take care of their what is most likely to be, after some time, to be called former allies of the Americans. Americans are not going to be there. That is quite clear. So in that broader context, we have to see, number one, the Americans are leaving this region. Strategically, Americans stand defeated, and this is the part of the reason. And then the immediate problem with the Saudis is that the Ansarullah Houthis in the north of Yemen, they are giving very tough time to the Saudi Arabias. And I think the latest skirmishes, that is because of the blunders by the Saudis. There was no point of attacking Sana'a airport when the Iranian plane was to be there, going to be landed there. So I think Saudis picked up the problem, and the years-long ceasefire agreement between Houthis and Saudis collapsed. So I think that is the reason of the recent fighting between the two sides. So in that broader context, problem with the Saudis is that they, last time there was an attack on Qatar by Israel, and they needed Pakistan, and they had a security pact. You may call it as a defense pact with Pakistan. Okay. This time around, Houthis started attacking them, and they brought in between Turkey. Turkey has been essentially struggling hard to be part of this defense pact for its own reason. So in that context, Saudi Arabia has an immediate problem, but in the larger scheme of the things, new security architecture is there, and that is essentially Pakistan, Turkey is going to be there to protect most of the Gulf states. This is a new reality. Turkey needs a nuclear umbrella from Pakistan to batter apartheid Israel. And at a time when the NATO is a dead horse, Turkey knows that in case it picks up the fight with apartheid Israel, Americans would not be there, NATO would not be there. They will create certain false justification not to attack their ally, the real ally Israel. So I think Turkey has managed it. But again, there is a bigger challenge both for Pakistan and the Turkey, how to handle Houthis, Ansarullah and in Iran. Pakistan has good ties, at least at this particular point of time, with Iran. My understanding is that Pakistan is going to use its influence on Iran to bring an end to this limited war theater in the Red Sea between Saudi Arabia and the Houthis. Okay. I think the diplomatic clout is going to be there. But again, we should not forget that the Turkey and Pakistan are part of the 14 countries alliance, which is essentially there in the Red Sea to deter Houthis. I don't think this can deter Houthis alliance. But again, one point that we should not forget about, the country which is deeply concerned about this alliance is apartheid theocratic Israel. I don't call it a democratic Israel because it actually follows its theology. So in that broader context, let me say it, that it is a deep worry in Tel Aviv.
That this is a signaling, or just, I mean, operationally things will happen?
I think this is a very important question. This very clause saying that an attack on one country would be considered an attack on all these three countries, that is more on the pattern of the NATO. And that means that as long as any of these countries are not attacked, the other two countries would not be there to help them out. Now, the troubling part is that if the Saudis pick up row and fight with Houthis by themselves and without Houthis attacking them, this is a very different situation. And that has already happened. I told you earlier on that first it was Saudi Arabia which attacked Sana's airport. So I think supposedly if that kind of scenario occurs again, I don't think this defense pact should be activated.
Okay.
You look at the bigger examples. Americans were attacked on 9/11 some 25 years ago. NATO was there to help them. NATO was there in Afghanistan.
Okay.
And USA attacked Iran. NATO was not there. USA attacked Iraq. NATO was not there because the US was not attacked. This is understandable reality.
Yes.
But I think problem with the Saudis is that they want Turkey and Pakistan to fight their dirty war in Yemen. Despite the fact that the Saudis are responsible for the killing of hundreds of thousands of people along with the UAE from 2014 onwards. And at that particular point of time, Saudis wanted Pakistan to be part of that war. Pakistan exercised restraint. Now, I think under the leadership of the new military chief, I think things have changed. Pakistan's economy has gone from bad to the worst. They need Saudis' money. I think in that desperation, they have inked this deal. Now, a public perception is that this is meant against Israel. Yes, in the long run, it is true.
That is my, Mr. Rana, that's my next question. But importantly and interestingly, like we mentioned, if we come across to see this statement, I mean, attack on one is attack on three. For example, the current conflict going on between Iran and US, and Iran every next day or every next week attack on Saudi Arabia on American basis. So that is a kind of attack on Saudi Arabia. So where Turkey and Pakistan will stand then?
I think Pakistan did manage in the past to prevail upon Saudi Arabia not to be part of this war, because that's precisely apartheid Israel wants. So I think in this particular case, this is going to be a very troublesome question for Pakistan and Turkey. But my understanding is that Iran is not going to attack directly on Saudi Arabia, but Iran, like always, would use its proxies in Iraq, in Yemen to carry out attack in Saudi Arabia. The problem with the IRGC is that it has an ideological outlook. It believes that it can take over all these countries. They have already given tough time to the Americans. I think this is a problematic area. Handling Iranian Revolutionary Guard for Turkey and Pakistan is going to be a huge challenge. This is a critical question, and my understanding is that both Pakistan and Turkey are going to be reluctant to operationalize any possible this particular clause of the Defense Pact to retaliate against Iran. But when it comes to its proxies, probability is there that Pakistan and Turkey would be there to carry out attack. But the standard practice has been that the Pakistani pilots would be there, Pakistan's machinery would be there behind the scene, and the Saudis would be claiming they have done it. I think this kind of a scenario would continue to build up in the Red Sea and across the region. But I don't think at this particular point of time, when Pakistan, along with Turkey, they are trying to sort out issues in the Middle East through diplomatic means, they are not in a position to retaliate against Iran and also in extension to its proxies.
Who is this pact really designed to deter? Is this Iran technically, or Israel, India, or potentially even the United States? So I take out United States because that's a bit difficult for this pact to deter for United States, but definitely keeping these three countries for India, Iran, or Israel. So who are really designed to deter for, please?
Obviously, it's not there to deter Americans. It is there because all these three countries have, and most of the Gulf states, they have come to a conclusion that the Americans would not be there after some time in the Middle East. So they need new masters. So Pakistan, Turkey is there. And the bigger question is why the Americans are putting up with this defense pact. Why don't they fear that this could possibly be against the apartheid Israel? I think reason being is Americans are also, they mistakenly think that this pact is against Iran. I think partially they are right, but in the long run, it would not be against Iran. In the long run, it would be against Israel. This is a dark reality for the Israel. This is a dark reality for the Americans. The reason being is that my understanding is that at the end of the day, this is my pure understanding. It may be not correct, but my understanding is that the Americans are departing from this region. The military footprint of the Americans would not be there. And in that broader context, this war theater is going to be brought to an end through a diplomatic solution where Pakistan's and Turkey's role is important. So I think, having said that, maybe in the long run, if Israel does not stop its expansionist agenda, the possibility is there that Iran may join this pact. But that will take years, and that will also take Iran to change its behavior in the region. That would also mean that Iran needs to contain its proxies. Let's understand the reality. Iran is an ideologically expansionist state. It has been using its proxies to hold territory of the other countries.
Yeah,
the example is Lebanon. Another example is Yemen, and previously it was Syria, from where it has been expelled by Turkey and the other militant groups. And in Iraq, still Iran has hold. It's a holding territory through proxies. So I think essentially Iran is a ideologically expansionist state, and on the other hand, Israel is also ideologically, theologically an expansionist state. It is less using its proxies and more using its military to expand its territory. Yes. And it considers all these countries and all rest of the world as subhuman beings, more particularly the Arabs. So I think the real problem is between these countries. I mean, there has been allegation from Israel that Iran is using Hamas and Islamic resistance in Gaza. No. Actually, Iran is exploiting the situation, exploiting this cause of Palestinian cause, because there is a wider acceptability in the Muslim world. At a time when the Sunni states are in league, have been in league with the apartheid Israel in conducting this genocide. This is a dark reality. I don't want to get into those details, how Gulf states have helped Israel to conduct this genocide. The growing tide of anti-Israel sentiments. What you see behind me is just tip of the iceberg of what is happening in the country. more than half of $52 billion black CIA budget is spent on espionage network in Pakistan. How would you handle it?
The US has looked upon Pakistan as an ally at one point and then as an enemy at the same time.
That is going to be the first legal reason on the basis of which he is going to be instantly ousted by the Supreme Court of Pakistan.
Joining us live, Javed Rana, who's an expert on politics and geostrategic issues.
In the world politics, which is not being driven by any moral principle, it is being driven by the hard geostrategic realities. In a broader picture, more countries would aspire to have nuclear weapons. New master, so Pakistan, Turkey is there. And the bigger question is why the Americans are putting up with this defense pact. Why don't they fear that this could possibly be against the apartheid Israel? I think reason being is Americans are also, they mistakenly think that this pact is against Iran. I think partially they are right, but in the long run, it would not be against Iran. In the long run, it would be against Israel. This is a dark reality for the Israel. This is a dark reality for the Americans. The reason being is that my understanding is that at the end of the day, this is my pure understanding. It may be not correct, but my understanding is that the Americans are departing from this region. The military footprint of the Americans would not be there. And in that broader context, this war theater is going to be brought to an end through a diplomatic solution where Pakistan's and Turkey's role is important. So I think, having said that, maybe in the long run, if Israel does not stop its expansionist agenda, the possibility is there that Iran may join this pact. But that will take years, and that will also take Iran to change its behavior in the region. That would also mean that Iran needs to contain its proxies. Let's understand the reality. Iran is an ideologically expansionist state. It has been using its proxies to hold territory of the other countries. The example is Lebanon. Another example is Yemen, and previously it was Syria, from where it has been expelled by Turkey and the other militant groups. And in Iraq, still Iran has hold. It's a holding territory through proxies. So I think essentially Iran is a ideologically expansionist state, and on the other hand, Israel is also ideologically, theologically an expansionist state. It is less using its proxies and more using its military to expand its territory. And it considers all these countries and all rest of the world as subhuman being, more particularly the Arabs. So I think the real problem is between these countries. I mean, there has been allegation from Israel that Iran is using Hamas and Islamic resistance in Gaza. No. Actually, Iran is exploiting the situation, exploiting this cause of Palestinian cause, because there is a wider acceptability in the Muslim world. At a time when the Sunni states are in league, have been in league with the apartheid Israel in conducting this genocide. This is a dark reality. I don't want to get into those details, how Gulf states have helped Israel to conduct this genocide. growing tide of anti-Israel sentiments. What you see behind me is just tip of the iceberg of what is happening in the country. More than half of $52 billion black CIA budget is spent on espionage network in Pakistan. How would you handle it?
The US has looked upon Pakistan as an ally at one point and then as an enemy at the same time.
That is going to be the first legal reason on the basis of which he is going to be instantly ousted by the Supreme Court of Pakistan.
Joining us live, Javed Rana, who's an expert on politics and geostrategic issues.
In the world politics, which is not being driven by any moral principle, it is being driven by the hard geostrategic realities. In a broader picture, more countries would aspire to have nuclear weapons.